Locked On Big Ten, Spencer McLaughlin from Locked On Pac-12 joining us here for an episode to discuss, everything that's happened over the last week now, I guess, Spencer, because it's been huge, the shifts and everything. We don't need to repeat everything from the big stuff, but I guess we'll start off just at the very beginning, or now the very latest, I should say. What has been going on lately? What are you feeling about what's next for the Pac-12? Because from a Big Ten standpoint, at least we have some stability here. We know at least what we're going to look like at a minimum. I have no idea what it must be like for you going through and trying to sift through all the possibilities of what this conference is going to do next.
Yeah, there's only about 12 or 13 different options that look like could realistically take place. And I'm probably underselling that to be frank with you, Nate. But I think that what's happening right now is there have been a lot of reports and rumors and, confirmed talks of the Pac-12 having 6 schools look at joining the Big 12, because initially what you had, understandably so, is, USC and UCLA say, okay, we're going to the Big 10. The logical question was then, is anybody in the Pac-12 going to follow? And Oregon and Washington were thinking about it. And every now and then you maybe hear a Stanford get thrown around in there, but there was never a mass exodus, tied to the Big Ten from the Pac-12 beyond USC and UCLA. And what we know at this point in time, or at least what we've been told, is that the Big Ten is content right now, unless they're going to get Notre Dame, which is a bigger financial draw than anybody in the Pac-12 aside from USC and UCLA, who bring the LA television market, which is rather significant, as we all know, and a big factor behind this decision to begin with. I think that they're, based on what we know, they're content to sit and say, we're good with these 2 schools in addition to the ones that we've got. It's clearly the number 2 conference in America, and it's starting to rival the SEC. I think once you get these schools in there, certainly from a media market perspective, it is, but also from a program caliber. If you can get USC back to what Pac-12 fans were hoping the Trojans would become in the Conference of Champions, once again, of course, that's not going to be the case. But unless they can get Notre Dame, which is probably the biggest financial draw, it doesn't look like they're going to add any more. So then it begs a question, right? Where are the remaining Pac-12 schools going to go? There was a report that there were ongoing conversations between 6 Pac-12 schools and the Big 12. And that was Oregon, Washington, the Arizona schools, Utah, and Colorado, a former member of the Big 12. And so that would leave Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, Washington State hung out to dry. And that's been a recurring theme. Those schools, those 4 programs, I say programs because we're talking about football primarily, because that's what's driving the bus, but those 4 schools have really been left out of all significant talks here. So first it was, what's going to happen with the Big Ten. Then it was, okay, maybe the Big Ten's not an option right now, though some reports came out that Phil Knight wanted Oregon to be a part of the Big Ten, or would prefer the Big Ten or SEC to the Big 12, which makes sense. There's more money involved there, and they're bigger and better conferences. Even with the Big 12 expansion that's looming, you have to remember they're losing Oklahoma and Texas. So then the Big 12 conversation came in, but then it came out a day later, or a day or two later. It's all just blurring together. It's already been a week since this news officially dropped. It feels like it's been a month. It really, really does. It's all moving so fast, and there's so many things that are changing. Now it's looking like the ACC is potentially going to come in and try and get some Pac-12 schools. So what happens next? We don't really know. There's not an indication, as we're recording this on Thursday morning, July 7th. There's not an indication that it's more likely to go one way or the other. If I had to guess, I would say Big 12, because it makes a little bit more sense. But everything just evolves so quickly and so randomly at times that I think it's hard to, sit here and make any predictions about, this is what's going to happen. Like I could do that and not really feel very good about it, frankly.
Well, my thought's always been that if Notre Dame is or isn't going to come, that domino has to fall before anything else happens. Big Ten is going to be at that doorstep until Notre Dame says yes or no. And then maybe another school or 2 is able to come in. But I don't think anything gets done before Notre Dame does anything. And I think the Big Ten also has this whole media rights thing to worry about too. that makes things complicated. So that has me at least leaning, but again, it's been changing back and forth and everything. There's a couple reasons there, though, for me to think that it could be done at least for now. I do want to talk on the national stage a little bit more about what like that conference's goal is that the Pac-12 become like those 6 schools that they go to the Big 12, or if there's a joining with the ACC. That's still not the Big 10 or the SEC, right? So what becomes the goal of whatever that combination of Pac-12 schools and whoever else it's going to be is, if that is what ends up happening?
Well, the goal is to at least be comparable. And I don't think you would be at the Big 10 or SEC's level if you're talking about the depth of high caliber programs that can win at an elite level, be, in big New Year's Six games, or be in the college football playoff, or, just be consistently winning programs. You're not going to get to that level, but it's sort of the quantity over quality approach. I've been talking about this over on Locked On Pac-12. And I think it's the only option the Big 12 would have, right? To become kind of one of the power 3 is, the option that they're presented with is, look, if we add a bunch of schools, then eventually, or at some point, or in some way, you're going to have some schools that will have good seasons, right? It's not like USC with Lincoln Riley, where you're looking at, 9 wins. Once he really gets it going there, 9 wins is kind of the floor, right? 8-9 wins is the floor. Whereas, other schools you add, like in the Big 12,